What's up, trainers? Jerpy's here, and in today's video, I'm going to walk you through what I believe is the best deck to play on the ranked ladder in Pokemon Pocket right now. This deck is comprised of Solgaleo paired with Shiinotic, the new Shiinotic, and honestly, the combination of these two created a deck that was extremely powerful, very, very consistent, but more importantly, extremely fast. I believe the majority of my matchups took under 5 minutes, and I had a lot of success with this deck on the ladder. The games that I'm going to show were recorded in Ultra Ball 3, as that's where I started my ranked ladder this season because I did not have the energy to grind into the top 10 or 5,000 last season. However, I had the opportunity to play a lot of the top meta decks currently in the meta right now, and this deck felt absolutely amazing. Now, if you like content like this and want to see more of it, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. And I'd love to hear in the comments any successes that you've been having with this deck or a variation of it. All right, now let's get into how the deck works. So the way the deck works is actually pretty straightforward. The idea is that you're using Shiinotic's ability in order to thin your deck and pull out random Pokemon cards so that you can put together your evolutions extremely quickly. And you want to do this ideally on curve. So by the time that you're dropping your second energy on your Cosmog, you have either a rare candy ready to go to be able to evolve it and move it into the active spot and start swinging for 120. Now, the biggest difference with this deck to the Skarmory version from last season is that you're actually trying to build both of your Solgaleos, and they end up being your primary attackers. The Shiinotic ends up really never using any energy or ever really using its attack. It's primarily just there as a support, and sometimes maybe there in the active spot to sacrifice it while you get your Solgaleos online. And from there, you're really just swinging and bouncing in and out with your Solgaleos until you can close the game out. Now, this deck sometimes can just come together very quickly where you have all the pieces to build your Solgaleo right off the bat. Other times, you're having to put together that Shiinotic in order to search the deck and build both of your Solgaleos. But what's really incredible is this deck moves super fast, and a lot of times, you're basically at a point where you're like on the last 2 or 3 cards. And so you have all of the trainer cards and all of the support cards that you need while all your evolutions are built. So let's talk a little bit about some of the support cards that we have in this deck. Now, obviously, we have the rare candy and the Pokemon communications in order to be able to make the deck more consistent and rush into those stage 2 evolutions with the Solgaleo. Now, we also have a red as a way to hit some really important breakpoints, as the extra 20 attack damage on the 120 base attack lets you hit things like a Darkrai or a Giratina after it's had its attack and taken its damage. Also things like a Buzzwole. So there's a lot of really, really important breakpoints that 140 attack is hitting, and red is super, super important in the late game for that. Now, we chose to use Cyrus because a lot of times what's happening is that you may swing in with your Solgaleo, hit for 120, and a lot of times that's not enough to clear out that Pokemon. And so what you'll see is your opponent will switch that Pokemon out and bring a new one in. And the Cyrus is amazing in the late game to just snipe that Pokemon back into the active spot and then clear it out and get those remaining points to clear the game out. Found that Cyrus was absolutely essential. Sabrina is just really not that good right now, particularly with all of the Ultra Beast decks out there that essentially have the free retreat in and out of the active spot built into their decks. Now, additionally, we opted to have 2 lilies in this deck as ways to just basically like keep your 2 Solgaleos alive. As I said, they are your primary attackers. The nice thing is that you can swap them in and out for free with their ability. And the lilies just give you that opportunity to just kind of keep them fresh and keep them healed. A lot of times giving you the opportunity to swing 1 or 2 more times with the Solgaleo, which is really all you need. Now, outside of that's pretty much how the deck works, right? You're just basically rushing into your Solgaleos, getting both of them built, kind of rotating them in and out as you swing for 120, using the lilies to keep them alive, and then have cards like Red and Cyrus in order to close games out as you reach kind of the late game or the finish line. Now, as I said, these games move super, super fast. However, there are a few counters that you're going to want to watch out for. The biggest one, and I think the main problem this deck faces, is that it just really struggles against kind of the main fire decks out there, like the Charizard or the Incineroar decks that are floating around. This deck just really has no way to really attack these decks unless you're able to just get online faster. That's pretty much your only hope, but you're not clearing any breakpoints that really do anything against either the Charizard or the Incineroar, and you're also taking super effective damage. And so without capes in this deck, there's really no way for you to survive a swing from either one of those Pokemon, which is just really, really problematic. So I would just say watch out for those. There's not a whole lot you can do. The idea is just hope that you are able to get your cards before they are, or that they brick. And every once in a while, you will claw out a win against those decks. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and actually jump into a few of the meta matchups here, and I'll walk you through some of my decision making and some ways to strategically play this deck. All right, heading into the first matchup here, we're going to go ahead and looks like we're going to be going second, which is ideal for this deck. Lets us be able to attack as soon as possible while getting that Solgaleo online. We look at the energy, we see fighting energy, and we're going to go ahead and assume that this is the type null Rampardos Silvally deck that's been running around the ladder, which is obviously a very, very strong deck. Now, we're fortunate that we're going second, is that this is a deck that ultimately likes getting first energy advantage, so they can start swinging as early as possible with that Silvally and hitting for that 100 damage with that kind of, playing that supporter trainer card support component to it. So we see that they are able to kind of get their basics down, they got their fossil down, and they kind of have the setup that they're looking for. We're leading on our Morlul here. And so our goal is ultimately that we want to draw and get a Cosmog out of our deck and get it down as soon as possible. We also want to potentially evolve into a Shiinotic so we can start thinning our deck as well. So we're going to play the Pokeball here, and we see we do pull the Cosmog down, so that's fantastic. And now ideally with the rare candy in hand, we really, really want to draw or pull into our Solgaleo. So as you can see here, the pieces are starting to somewhat come together. We're really just needing to get that Solgaleo here, and we're going to be able to hit on curve if we can make that happen. We've even got the Pokemon communications to try and ensure that we actually get that that consistency that we're looking for. And so, the nice thing here is that the 60 HP on the Morlul means that even if the type null is able to hit heads with its attack, we still survive, not a problem. There are a lot of games here where a lot of times the Morlul or the Shiinotic that you have in your active spot just goes down and you sacrifice it, and you're just trying to pull as many cards out of your deck and get your Solgaleos online as quick as possible before that happens. But that's totally okay. Giving up a point for that is not an issue, as a lot of times if you can get both Solgaleos online, you can then kind of dance them back and forth to try to essentially elongate your attack patterns as much as possible. So you can see they attack, they hit heads. We draw into a Cyrus, doesn't really help us here. We're going to obviously evolve into the Morlul here. We evolve into the one, or into the Shiinotic. We evolve into the one into the back, just to be able to get as many pulls from it as possible. We draw into another Cosmog. Not that great. We're going to go ahead and use the comms to put the other Cosmog back, since we know we have another Pokeball that we could pull that back out. And there it is. We're able to use the rare candy, evolve into the Solgaleo on curve, drop the second energy down, and you can see here that the combination of Shiinotic, the combination of the Pokemon comms allowed us to essentially get into that Solgaleo on curve. And now we're just going to be able to run this deck over, right? Now, we're not out of the woods completely, as they still do have that fossil in the back. And this is a deck that is able to actually give up 3 prize points, right? 3 very, very strong prize points that go down kicking and screaming. And so, from here, fortunately, because they had that energy on that lead type null, we were able to just kind of clear that thing out. And now they're basically at scratch with their energy. However, if they are able to rare candy into a Rampardos, that could be a little bit problematic, as we know that that Pokemon only needs 1 energy in order to attack. So you can see here, the opponent is thinning their deck. And honestly, our plan moving forward is extremely straightforward, right? We are simply just going to be thinning our deck with the Shiinotic, basically trying to pull out and build our second Solgaleo so that we have that when we need it. Unfortunately, we're unable to pull that Cosmog from our deck out. Hopefully this next Shiinotic can get it and we're able to pull it. We can throw that down, put the energy on it, and start building that backup Solgaleo. And that's what's really great about this deck, right? And what's different from the version that we played with Skarmory from last season is that this is a deck where you are getting both of your Solgaleos online. And that just gives you so much power with 180 HP on both of those Pokemon and then 2 Lilies to back it up. You're forcing your opponent to have to go through so much HP in order to break you down. Now we see that they're kind of throwing out the Hail Mary Iono, and in order to be able to find that Rampardos. We'll see if they find it. Doesn't look like they do. Opponent waits, and we know that we have this game. We can swing in and clear them out. And to be honest, this is honestly how the Silvally matchups go. Get the Solgaleo online and then run the opponent over. And that is all she wrote. All right, getting into our next matchup here. Let's go ahead and see. We're going to be going first, so not ideal, but honestly, this deck is totally fine going first as well. Take a look at energy, and we see grass energy, and this most likely means it's going to be this Decidueye or the Ultra Beast Buzzwole deck. So we wait and see what the opponent flips over. We see the Celesteela and the Buzzwole, and this means that we are essentially going to be, playing that combo deck that most likely is paired with the Formosa. And so we see here, we have, basically starting off with both our Morlulls here. We've got a Professor's Research to hopefully draw into a Shiinotic or honestly into a Cosmog. Really, our goal here is to get a Cosmog down as soon as possible, start building it up. And with the Rare Candy and the Solgaleo, we know that we can evolve into that very, very quickly. So we're going to throw up the Professor's Research. We see the Cyrus, we see the Shiinotic, so it's beautiful. Second best card we're looking for. We're going to go ahead and use its ability. And ideally, we want to draw into a Cosmog. And unfortunately, we don't. We see that we draw into our stage 1, which is not ideal. We're going to actually have to put an energy on our Morlull. And to be honest, just going to swing in, put the damage on it, which might come in handy later with that Cyrus. So it's not a complete waste, but honestly, not getting the Cosmog down here is slowing us down quite a bit. And the dynamics of this game honestly have completely changed. So here, once again, our goal is let's just get that Cosmog. We draw the red, not really going to help in the short game here. We cross our fingers. Shiinotic pulls the Cosmog, absolutely amazing. We can put that down. We can put an energy on it. And from here, we're basically just going to swing again. And we know that with the Rare Candy and the Solgaleo in hand, as long as we don't get hit with a Mars or a red card that basically just completely blows our hand up, we are in a really good spot, even though we're basically one turn behind where we ideally want to be. And so we've now given up that point, and that's actually like a pretty important call out here because now when we play our Solgaleo, we actually have to ensure that we don't let it go down, and we're going to have to kind of dance it back and forth with a backup Solgaleo. So getting a backup Solgaleo online here is going to be extremely, extremely important. And so once again, we go ahead, we evolve in, we drop the energy on it, we thin our deck to see what we pull. We got the backup Cosmog, which is great. We can go ahead and put that down and start building on that. And then we're going to swing in and clear out the Formosa. The Kartana. Now, here, the opponent does, we actually have a decision to make. And so rather than swinging into the Kartana, we're actually going to use the Cyrus in order to pull up the Celesteela and actually clear that out. Now, this is really, really important. With 2 Celesteelas, the opponent essentially has the combo without having to spend any energy, meaning they can use the Celesteela ability twice in order to move the Buzzwole in and out without having to actually put an energy on the Kartana and sacrificing the energy for the retreat cost. So here we wanted to target that second Celesteela and get rid of it in order to prevent that kind of free combo that the opponent essentially would have in that use case. Now, here's also another really important call out. They did not put a cape on their Buzzwole. We now have a red in hand. And so while we can go ahead here and actually just kind of throw some energy around, build into our second Solgaleo, We actually have the nuts, and honestly, we're just messing around here. We know that we can just throw that red up. We can hit that Buzzwole for 140 and go ahead and actually just take this game. So, we're just kind of messing with the opponent here a little bit, just kind of showing off how consistent our deck is. We should throw the red, and this is what's so important about the red, is that it just sneaks these little wins out against things like Darkrai and against things like Buzzwole, who don't think that they're in danger of getting knocked out. And there you go. We're able to take that game and run over the Buzzwole deck. All right, getting into the next matchup here, we're going to take a look and see that we've won the toss. We're going first. We see Dark Energy, so we're going to assume this is most likely a Darkrai deck. And Giratina, we've seen this paired with Silvally, and we've also seen this paired with Neolego. So just waiting to see what we're looking at here. We see the Giratina in the lead, and we're able to start with both our Cosmogs here in the active spot and on the bench. We use our Pokeball in order to draw into the Morlul. And, without any card draw here or a clear path to a Shiinotic, Rare Candy, and a Solgaleo, this is looking a little bit like a rough start. We're going to really hope that one of the next draws gets us something to start getting into some of our stage, basically things to build into our stage 2. So we see the opponent is able to drop in the Darkrai. They've got the Giratina in the lead. And they've also are able to drop down a type null. So it sounds like this is going to be the Silvally version of the Darkrai deck. So we see the chip damage coming into our lead Solgaleo, the Iono. This is great for us because we were honestly sitting on a pretty bad set of cards. And, drawing into the Lily and the red, not that amazing, but we do have another Pokeball here, which will allow us to thin the deck even more, leaving more of an opportunity for us to either draw into a Professor's Research or into that Shiinotic, which is going to help us draw out our cards. Instead, we see here that we get our Cosmog, and this is interesting because by putting this down, all we really need to do now is draw into our Solgaleo, and we will be able to immediately bring that up and start swinging. So that's kind of the draw we're looking for, something like a Professor's Research. A Shiinotic would be great, or the nuts, which would be the Solgaleo itself. We see here where they're building up their Giratina. They've got 2 energies on their Darkrai, so their Darkrai is 1 energy away from attacking. And this is a really interesting point. So if we're able to draw into the Solgaleo here, we put down the Shiinotic, draw, really hoping to get into Solgaleo. We pull it. This is amazing. Now this is going to be interesting. We're going to go ahead and evolve into our Solgaleo here. We're going to move it up into the active spot, and we're going to swing on the Giratina. Now this is going to put the opponent in a really interesting position. They could decide to actually burn the energy on their Giratina and pull it on back to their bench, and then put their Darkrai in the active spot and swing on us and really put the game on the back of their Darkrai. Now, this is something that is going to be tempting for them to do. And if they do it, it puts us in a really great spot because we have that Cyrus that we can always use to pull that Giratina up down the road. We also have the red in hand, which, as you know, hitting the Darkrai with the Solgaleo's attack and the red does do enough damage to be able to KO that. So unless they have a cape, most of these decks are not running capes. They tend to run things like Poison Dart and the helmets over the cape. But I do know that some of the deck lists do run 1 cape in them. So we're really hoping that they don't have the cape. They don't, they swing into us, and this is great, right? We have the Lily to be able to heal up if we want to. We have the red to be able to swing and clear the Darkrai, and that's most likely what we're going to do here. And we actually even have the Rare Candy to be able to evolve into that backup Solgaleo. So we drop the energy on the Cosmog, we evolve into the Solgaleo here, and now this is great because we do have that backup Solgaleo to be able to follow up with if we need to. We throw up the red and we go ahead and clear the Darkrai, and this is what I was talking about and how the red is such an important card here, helping you hit some of these super important breakpoints that really just kind of flip games on their head or close games out when you need it. And so here we're in a really, really strong position. Honestly, the opponent doesn't really have a lot of options. They are energy dry on both of their Pokemon, which means that they're going to have to rely on essentially, honestly, they should have put the energy on that type null, swung with it, and tried to clear out our Solgaleo. But honestly, it doesn't matter because we have the follow-up Solgaleo, which is just going to run them over. So you can see here, game is essentially over. We'll just Lily for good measure, throw some HP back on it. We're going to put the energy over on our backup Solgaleo, and we're just going to clear the game out and take it. And honestly, once again, this is how the Solgaleo deck just completely runs over these slower decks like the Darkrai Giratina. All right, getting into the final matchup here, we see that we are going second here. In my opinion, we've won the toss for our deck, which allows us to essentially get that 2 energy on and that Solgaleo built super, super early here, which is obviously the goal of this deck. We're looking at metal energy, so most likely going to be playing the mirror matchup. We'll just have to see if this is the version that's continuing to run the Skirmy or if it's also running the Shiinotic version. So we get red carded right at the beginning of the game, and I can't tell you how many times that this happened with either a red card or a Mars. And to be honest, it really, while it did take 1 card away from us, it also required them to burn a card. So it's really a net 0 advantage for them. And so here we use the Professor's Research to essentially draw into one of our Shiinotics here, which is perfect. We're going to be able to evolve that next turn and immediately start filtering our deck. We also have the Rare Candy and the Solgaleo ready to go, and so we're going to be able to drop that energy on our lead Cosmog, and be able to start swinging immediately. So them putting the energy on the back Cosmog is smart. This means that if we are able to evolve here and clear their frontline Pokemon, they still have the opportunity to rare candy into their own Solgaleo, and that actually puts them in a relatively strong position as well, because they will end up getting the first swing into our Solgaleo. So here, once again, we really want to try to draw into a backup Solgaleo. That's kind of our insurance. It basically means that if they are able to evolve into theirs, we have that protection, and we actually don't necessarily need to worry about our lead Solgaleo going down, as long as we can chip, do some damage, and put theirs in a position where we can clear it out on the backswing. And so we see the opponent go. We're going to wait and see. Do we see the rare candy? We don't, but we do see a Professor's Research. So they've got quite a few hands or cards in their hand. Most likely they're going to be able to evolve into their own Solgaleo. So we're just going to wait and see what they do. And it looks like they don't yet have it. So they've got the energy. They're going to teleport back, and they're going to bring their Morlul up to the front. And so here, once again, we're going to use the ability of our Shiinotic. In the deck, we draw into our backup Cosmog. This is great because we now have the full evolution line to be able to eventually get into that Solgaleo if and when we need it. So we're going to go ahead and take another price point here. And once again, we're still not out of the woods, right? Like, you always have to be prepared for them being able to evolve here. And if they can, like I said, they're going to be able to get the first swing into our Solgaleo. So knowing that we actually have one in the back that we can start building into does give us some pretty good insurance here. We see they go ahead and evolve into their own, place the third energy on it, and then they're going to go hit us with a red, which is going to essentially put us down to 20. Now, this isn't really that big of a deal because we still have the extra 10 damage to be able to give on the recoil here. So not having any lilies and being able to heal up, not the biggest deal. We're basically just going to assume that this Solgaleo is going to go down next turn, but on its way down, we're going to go ahead and take a big chunk out of theirs. And so basically the opponent here is just hoping that we don't have that backup Solgaleo that we can evolve into or that we can draw into with the Shiinotic. I'm assuming that they know the writing's on the wall and that there's not a whole lot that they can do here. Even healing this up still puts it under the threshold of our own Solgaleo being able to swing into it and clear it out. And they take their swing, and this basically ensures that we are going to win the game, right? We can evolve into our own Solgaleo. we can swing at them and basically just clear this game out. And you can see in the mirror, it's really interesting. Really, the mirror comes down to, hey, who can evolve first? But not only that, if they can match your evolution, if they're able to get the first swing into your Solgaleo, that a lot of times determines how the game pans out. All right, trainers, and to summarize, you can see exactly just how strong this deck is. Pairing Solgaleo with Shiinotic creates some amazing synergies. Not only does it give the deck some incredible consistency so that you're always hitting your stage 2 on time and on curve, or at least as much as possible, you also are put in a position where you get to evolve into your backup stage 2, which in a lot of times is just too much HP and too much attack power for any deck to be able to handle. Not only that, the ability on Solgaleo and the 2 energy costs just pair perfectly so that you don't even really have to worry about which Pokemon you end up with in your starting hand and who you have to lead on early. Honestly, I think this deck is posed to make a really big dent in the meta. I think it's here to stay for quite a while, unless you start seeing a lot more Charizard and Incineroar decks, because it just has such a strong and consistent matchup against everything else, and it absolutely annihilates the Silvally decks. Now, the only changes I would potentially make to this deck, pending how the meta shapes up, is I could see adding Guzma to the deck, and maybe removing a Lily if you find that you're running into a lot of poison decks and you're just needing something in order to get rid of those annoying poison darts. I think you could also make the argument that maybe adding in a cape just so that you can get one of your Solgaleos over some of those important breakpoints, particularly the Incineroar matchup or the Charizard matchup, might be a good call. But to be honest, where the meta is today, I feel like that the cards that are in this deck right now are pretty much essential. Pokemon communications, I think, is important for just really driving that consistency. I did run it with Mars and Red Card before. And to be honest, I feel like they just didn't give me a lot of value. And really, your plan is just to rush into those evolutions and just run your opponent over and not really need to worry about trying to disrupt what they're doing. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you making it this far in the video. Once again, if you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And I'm excited to see you in the next one.